It is Thursday, July the 12th, and what have you got for us, John?
Well, we had so much fun last week with our all-female show and had a whole list of songs left over that we didn't get to play, so I thought, why not just continue with what we were doing last week? So we are again going to have an all-female show. Well, with one qualification, this is more of a non-cis male show, so we do have one transgender person on our playlist.
Very cool. I'm glad.
So to recap from last week, just a quick little recap for any of our listeners who weren't able to listen to the show. The context of the show was an article that I read about Courtney Nichols from Lionso, who, as a response to sexism in the music industry, had started a Facebook page called Women of East Coast Music, which is, and this is the tagline of the page, a safe place to celebrate and showcase women, non-binary, trans, and non-cis musicians on the East Coast. So this is a Facebook page, a private page, with over 300 members currently, and it's only been around for a month or so. And it's got a directory of bands with links. You can post events. It offers music services. And so it's basically a hub for women, non-binary, non-cis and trans musicians to collaborate, communicate, and hopefully counter some of the prevalent sexism within the music industry. So she started that page as a response to something that she had heard about. This was a Rock the Hub festival that was slated for last April, and there was a lot of news around in-flight safety pulling from that show because there was not a single female act in the entire show. So a weekend show, not a single female act, and in-flight safety, out of conscience, decided that they couldn't participate in something that was so blatantly sexism. And, that's not even unusual in the industry, even today. I mean, things are probably better, but they're still not the kind of environment that we would hope for in a modern society.
Given the fact that it's 2018 now.
Yeah, 2018.
I thought things would be getting better by now.
I think last week we focused on the kind of heavier rock side of female New Brunswick music, in part to counter the stereotype that women don't rock as hard as men. I think we made a good case for the fact that they definitely can. And this week I thought we'd try something a little bit different and maybe tackle the breadth and the diversity of the different styles of music that women play in our province. So, folk and rock and country and electronic, and there's all kinds of really, really interesting music out there, not just the stereotypical pop songs about love and longing. And as I mentioned, it's probably more accurate to describe the show not as an all-female show, but as a non-male cis show, because we do have one transgender musician who identifies as gender neutral, actually, on the playlist. So we'll get to that eventually. But let's start out with a great band out of Woodstock called Tin Pan Darlings, who put out an excellent album in 2018 called Inside a Melody. And that band is fronted by sisters Tracy and Amy Anderson. It also has a couple of well-known East Coast musicians, such as Tom Easley playing the bass, and Rhaye Legier on fiddle, and Bill Stevenson out of Halifax on piano. He also produced their album. And it's kind of old school roots jazz, and they model the jazz as something that's out of an old speakeasy during the Prohibition era. It's their debut album. Took about 5 years to complete. Apparently a very painstaking process that they weren't even sure if it would come to completion, but it did, and we're grateful for that because it's just a fantastic album.
It is.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
So I heard a little interview on CBC with Tracy and Amy, and they said that it was influenced in part, this style of music, by some of the post-war music that their grandparents used to play. But also, do you remember Columbia House records, tapes?
Of course, yeah.
Our younger listeners probably wouldn't know, but we didn't have electronic music and not even any internet at the time. So, if you're living in a small town, you might have a music store, and it might have like a small selection of pop music. That was the case of me growing up in northern New Brunswick. So one of the ways that you could acquire a larger collection is by subscribing to this monthly service, Columbia House Records, where you'd pay, I think, $1 and get 10 albums, and then you're obligated once a month for maybe the next year to buy one album a month.
Oh, wow.
Very common
I
way
didn't know
for
about
people
that.
to get music. Yeah,
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so they had a Columbia House subscription, like many people did in that era, and they accidentally got sent a Miles Davis tape, which was not something that they expected, and not something that they were super familiar with, but, you know, that introduced them to the old school Miles Davis bebop jazz.
Interesting.
They acquired an ear for jazz, and obviously it stuck with them, because now they're doing jazz and doing a great job with it.
Yeah, and they also did a movie to go along with the album.
Yeah, a black and white silent movie called Inside a Melody, same name as their album, which Amy Anderson wrote, directed, filmed, and I think also acted in. So I haven't seen this, but when they were doing the CD releases, they would play the songs from the album and have the film playing in the background.
I did not see it either, and I really regret that, of course.
How they describe the film is, imagine yourself in the movie halls of the 1920s, with a live band providing the soundtrack as you take in the magical and zany world of the mysterious.
I love it.
Yeah.
Next time that comes around, I will be there.
Oh, yeah.
No
that'd be
doubt.
great. Yeah, and of course that reflects like the early age of cinema, where there were no soundtracks to the movie. They would have maybe an orchestra playing in the background, or, you know, like the old silent movie Metropolis has numerous soundtracks. Some of them are like orchestral, and some of them are more modern and electronic, but, you know, there was never any sound originally released with that movie, so, you know, it was up to whoever was playing the movie to provide that.
Wow.
So we're going to listen to a song off that album called Bathtub Gin. And
I like the
Bathtub
name
Gin,
of that.
yeah, that's something that, a term that arose out of the Prohibition era also, where gin was the predominant drink. And gin is basically cheap grain alcohol, like moonshine essentially. And you add a little bit of water to water it down, and then add some flavor to cut the bitter, disgusting taste. So juniper berries was generally what was added, just to mask the bad taste.
Do you like gin?
I've drunk gin before. I've had a few bad experiences
Me
with
too.
gin that probably aren't appropriate for the radio.
For some reason, I've gotten really mean on gin. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's not appropriate for radio, so.
They called it bathtub gin also because, you know, if you're making it in any sort of quantity, and this of course was done underground because alcohol was prohibited, then a bathtub was the perfect medium to create large quantities of this. And also the bottles that you put it in were too long to fit under the tap of your sink, but they would of course fit under your bathtub. So, yeah.
I also love the wallpaper on this. I don't know if it's on their cover of their album or if it's just on the
Bandcamp page.
The Bandcamp page. Thank you, John. I think it's so cool. It goes with it so well.
Yeah, typical of the
ornate
floral
really
wallpapers of the time.
And it does make you think of bathtub gin.
That's what you see after you drink bathtub gin.
So I think we're going to play it.
All right.
Are we ready?
I am.
Bathtub Gin by Tin Pan Darlings out of Woodstock, New Brunswick.
Grab my coat, step onto the street, gather my thoughts, it's been a long work week. I'll head on over to Jimmy's green door. I can hardly wait to see what those cats got in store. It's down the steps and it's off to the side, back in the corner where the valuables hide. You see a gleaming silver, and that's Jimmy still. He'll pass around a pitcher till we all get our fill. I'm passing all the people, slurping up a cocktail divine. And she been looking cozy, but take a little sip of that bathtub gin. You know I need a little drink of that bathtub gin. The gang is gonna party, but before we begin, let me offer up a cup of that bathtub gin. Careful, you'll make that common mistake. And in the morning when the sun shows its face, the bathtub gin will laugh and put you right in your place. Oh, the band is pumping, swinging on a rhythm divine. The people looking cozy, you can tell that they got one thing on their mind. Take a little sip of that bathtub gin. You know I need a little drink of that bathtub gin. The gang is gonna party, but before we begin, let me offer up a cup of that bathtub gin. Offer up a cup of the bathtub gin.
So that was Bathtub Gin by Tin Pan Darlings out of Woodstock, New Brunswick, and I love that track. I could just sit there and look at that wallpaper on their Bandcamp page and listen to that music all day, and that would make me very happy. And drink gin, of course.
And drink gin, yeah.
That goes without saying.
Yeah.
You're listening to CHSR 97.9 FM, Instant Breakfast on this Thursday, and we are doing all ladies again today, which I think is super exciting. And what do we have coming up next, John?
Next, we have a track from Rhaye Babies, who are from Memron Cook, Rogersville, and Dalhousie. They, of course, burst onto the New Brunswick music scene with an album in 2014 called Mon Homesick Heart. They won 5 Music New Brunswick Awards, a 2014 ECMA for Francophone Album of the Year, and their first album was kind of indie folk, I guess. There was Vivienne Roy, who is now called Laura Sauvage, playing guitar, and Julie Aubé on the banjo, and Quatrieme Noël on the ukulele. Their second album, though, is a bit of a departure from that folk sound that they established in their first album. It's more psychedelic rock. It's got a lot of electric guitars and drum machines and synthesizer, and it's a really interesting change from the first album. Anyway,
when did this second album come out?
That came out in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, they've since established solo careers. I don't think they frequently play as Rhaye Babies anymore, and I think they actually may be in separate cities now. I know Vivienne Roy or Laura Sauvage is in Montreal. I think Quatrieme Noël is still in Moncton. I'm not sure about Julie Aubé. I think probably still Moncton also. Anyway, they've been all over the world. They did 5 tours in Europe. Brought them through France and Switzerland and Germany and Belgium. And yeah, I got an interesting quote from an interview from them that talks a little bit about sexism in the music industry. I think it was Quatrieme Noël who says, "The thing that annoys me the most, though, is that people say, you're like the Dixie Chicks because you're 3 girls, so they're never compared to male bands. They're only ever compared to female bands."
And
yeah.
So what if they're 3 girls?
I know.
What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, it says nothing at all about the style of music that they're playing.
Just their sex?
Yeah.
That is bizarre.
Yeah, so sometimes the sexism is explicit, like in the Rock the Hub Festival, and sometimes it's more insidious.
Now I also will have to admit that the other day I was playing all women I think it wasn't yesterday, so it was probably a week ago. And I did say, for whatever reason, when 3 women get together, the music is just absolutely phenomenal. But I didn't mean that as in any way sexist at all.
Of course not. No.
It's just like there are a lot of women trios, and they are like so good.
It's true, yeah. And sometimes your brain lags behind the times, and there's so much history embedded in the language that you use, and it's difficult sometimes to find the words to talk in an inclusive way. It's difficult, I find, for people from our generation to talk about transgender in a way that is inclusive as you would like to be. Sometimes I struggle for the words.
Oh, you do a great job. No, I have a very hard time.
Yeah.
And
it gets easier though the more you do it.
That's right, and the more you're around it, and that's why we need to be around it, and it needs to come into our lives a lot more, lot more.
It's true, yeah.
Or else we're just going to sound ignorant.
Yeah, we'll look back in 10 years at some of the things that people thought and think, how could we possibly have thought that way? Exactly.
That's why I often say to, some of my transgender friends, you are light years ahead of me. Light years.
Yep.
And I mean it in the best possible way. So anyway, we got off on a little tangent there. So
yeah, it's an important tangent.
It is. It needs to be talked about. It needs to come to the surface more.
So what we're going to play from Les Hay Babies is off their latest album, 2016, Le Quatrieme Dimension, which is the 4th dimension. And it's got a very 4th dimension-ish, but 70s quality on the album cover.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Psychedelic rock, I guess, is what you'd want to call it. From
Looks a little bit like Star Trek.
It does, yeah. Yeah, and the song that we're going to listen to is Motel 1755.
All right.
Viens mon motel, j'ai la pizza puis des pickles. Tu peux coucher sur mon sofa, tu peux sleeper in ou dopa. Viens mon motel, t'as pas à t'expliquer. J'suis bonne à des casse-têtes, j'peux t'aider à comprendre. Si jamais t'es mêlé, j'peux t'aider à te prendre. Si t'as quelque chose à dire pis ça pèse sur ton cœur, j'suis prête à l'entendre. Viens mon motel, j'ai la pizza pis des pickles. Tu peux coucher sur mon sofa, tu peux sleeper in ou dopa. Viens mon motel, t'as pas à t'expliquer. Le monde ça va bien, surtout quand ça va pas bien. Y'a des portes qui restent barrées, des cendres qui soufflent. Y'a des TV qui jouent fort, du monde qui s'engueule, du monde qui prennent des wake-up calls juste pour pas se réveiller seul. Ils viennent au mon motel, they know I don't ask and I don't tell. Des lunes de miel puis des parties, des
is a super departure from their first album. I love it. Really good musicianship, really good harmonies, really good vocals.
Yeah.
So that was Les Hay Babies. Thank you.
I love every tune on that album. The Quatrieme Dimension, the fourth dimension.
The fourth dimension. And we heard the track Motel 1755.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have coming up next, John?
Next, we have Émilie Landry out of Moncton with her 2017 album Être social, which means being social in English. And she's on the very excellent Le Grenier label. And I guess her music would best be described as a mixture of maybe folk and pop. She did get a degree in music from the Cégep in Notre-Dame-de-Froid in Quebec. And that was in pop and jazz singing. So, you do hear some elements of the jazz singing and the control that kind of training brings in her voice. She's got a very clear, strong, emotive voice. While she was in Quebec City, she played with a band called Amelie and Les City Folks. It's a really good album. We'll have to play it sometime, called Tomber dedans, Falling Inside. Her music is very personal and emotional. I think the tune we're going to play it's very characteristic of it, very melancholic, and it has like a lot of quiet tension. So we're going to play the title track off this album, Être social, being social.
Je me donne une note sur 10 quand je parle aux gens. Et quand ils placotent, je tire à blanc. Mais pourtant, je pratique mon sourire devant les miroirs. Et je répète mes plus belles histoires. Apparemment, je suis un être social. Personnellement, je me sens anormal. Parfois, je réussis à les tuer. Quand j'arrive à parler sans trébucher, quand je traverse le désert de ma gorge, au bout il y a peut-être quelques mots qui se forgent. Apparemment, je suis un être social. Personnellement, je me sens anormal. Laissez-moi fondre dans l'arrière-plan. Dans votre film, je serai figurant. Je n'ai pas le cœur pour être un héros. De toute façon, je serais de trop.
Wow, the instrumentation in that was so absolutely precise, as were the vocals. Just like you said, that jazz quality that's so just precise.
Yeah, and I think that's her playing both the guitar and the piano. So she's a multi-instrumentalist.
Wow, that was absolutely gorgeous.
There's something very personal about her music.
Absolutely, it does kind of really tug at your heartstrings. That was gorgeous. That was Émilie Landry, Être social. What do we have coming up next?
Next, we have a singer from Tracadie, Sheila, who now resides in Montreal. Her name is Amelie Hall. She's an indie country country/bluegrass singer. Old country, though, like not the new pop country. We're going to play something off of her 2014 self-titled album. It's a tune called Le Monde a bien changé, The World is Changing. First 6 singles of this album made it to the Canadian charts for several weeks. There's really good musicianship on it. Like, there's a fantastic fiddle solo, it's really great banjo in this, even a little bit of yodeling near the end of this tune.
Cool.
She has put out an album since then. In 2017, she had one called Cultiver l'amour, Cultivate Love. Won a bunch of awards. Discovery of the Year 2016 at the Gala Country Awards. Nominated in 2017 for Female Performer of the Year. 2018 Composer of the Year, Album of the Year, Song SoCan of the Year. We've played some of her music before.
I thought we had.
It's really, really good. Let's listen to Le Monde a bien changé, The World is Changing.
J'en ai connu plusieurs, des fois changé souvent. C'était avant que t'arrives, c'était avant ton temps. À cette heure c'est plus pareil, je fais ça comme avant. Le monde a bien changé, je t'aime à tous les jours. J'apprends à vivre mieux, j'apprends à vivre heureuse. Le monde a bien changé.
Beautiful. That was from Amelie Hall, Le Monde a bien changé. Love it. We are having our usual Thursday underground music day, underground music from New Brunswick. And not only that, but all female, or as you called it, John. What?
Non-male.
Non-male. Thank you. Let's just leave it at that. And what do we have coming up next?
So this is a new discovery. This is an album that just came out in 2018. A woman from St. John named Jennifer Irving, and she has a 4-track EP out called Let 'Em In. So she's not just a musician. I think she's a fine art photographer for her full-time job. And she refers to her music as ambient folk, but there's, I think, actually a range of different styles. In her bio, she said that each of these 4 songs were recorded at different times in different studios with different people, and so there is kind of a mix of different approaches. The tune that we're going to listen to now, which is the first track off her album, is called Wait. that has kind of a spaghetti western feel.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. She's got Quebecois and Cape Breton roots, and that finds its way into her music. She used to front the band called The Drift out of St. John, which was kind of a classic rock cover band. I think the name refers to the continental drift that you can see in the reversing falls as you pass across the bridge in St. John. So let's take a look at this. I really like everything on this album.
Tails are chasing, the timing is night. The faith you stored in me has never felt right. Sanctity that I will not know, the words of wisdom of letting you go. Never place the world on your throne. Lives that we live will never succumb. Chances are it'll say you by my side as I slowly let go of the rope that you tied. Never be a song at your feet when timing in life is all that you'll need. Love my sides turn and bow, water shifting, the storm heard loud. Sanctity that I will not know, words of wisdom of letting you go. Never place the world on your throne. Lives that we live will never succumb. Go softer through here, I say to you. Don't weigh me down to break into.
So that was Wait from Jennifer Irving. Really beautiful. I love it. I love that, as you said, that spaghetti western kind of genre.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Some electronic sort of music on some of the other tracks, and yeah, it's a really nice mix of different styles.
It's a 4-track EP, did you say?
It's a 4-track EP.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to definitely check that out. Very nice. What do we have coming up next?
Next we have Christine Melanson out of Moncton, and she's got a 2016 album called Constellations. She is an amazing fiddle player, pianist, bodhran player. She's also a playwright and a prize-winning poet. She won the Antoine Maillet Prize in 2014. She was poet in residence for the Fry Festival in 2016. So she has what she calls a fresh take on Canadian Celtic and Cape Breton tunes, as well as some modern Celtic compositions.
She writes all her stuff too,
well,
obviously.
Well, in the traditional fiddling, Celtic fiddling style, it's a mixture of writing and playing traditional music.
Okay.
And, often they're delivered in sets of 2 or 3 songs. What we're going to listen to today is a set of 2 songs, one of them called In a Flurry, which she wrote herself, and one of them is a cover of a Troy McGilvery song called Cynically Stealthy. So the album Constellations it's a hybrid live and studio album. So some of the songs were recorded in the Aberdeen Cultural Centre. So she did a live performance at the Aberdeen Cultural Centre, which is where they recorded Le Jacques show. We've had a couple of tunes on this show from Le Jacques show, and that's a local French cable TV show that highlights musicians and other people in the arts, and we've heard some really great stuff from that. So
oh yes, absolutely.
So I think 3 of the songs from Constellations were recorded there, and the other 7 in the studio in Moncton. She's been playing for a long time. Started playing fiddle when she was 4. Her grandfather was a fiddler, and she's played all across Canada, the U.S., and Ireland, and France. She actually played for the Queen of England when she was 9. She's been invited to compete several times in the Canadian Grand Masters Fiddling Competition, which has been an elite fiddling competition. Nominated for Folk Artist of the Year at the 2017 Music New Brunswick Awards, and then Traditional Instrumental Album of the Year at 2017 ECMAs. She's just a smoking fiddler and also a pianist, and we're going to hear both of those. So this first song in a Flurry starts out in piano and then moves to fiddle after that, and you're going to hear the quality and the aggressive intensity of her playing.
So right up there, like a Natalie McMaster.
Yeah. She covers a couple of Natalie McMaster tunes on this too. She has one other musician playing with her here, Maxime Cormier, who's a Cape Breton guitarist, award-winning guitarist in his own right. Just the 2 of them basically on this song, and it sounds larger than 2 people.
I have no doubt. Let's hear it. Wow. So that was a compilation, I guess, of 2 tracks mixed together from Christine Melanson. In a Flurry, followed by Cynically Stealthy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Those crazy fast staccato,
Oh, wow.
Such an aggressive yet clean player.
Very, very, very clean.
Every inflection.
I absolutely love that. And if I ever have the chance to check her out, to see her live, I will do so.
Yeah. And although that was not one of the live tracks off of her album, the live tracks are equally as well played.
I have no doubt. That is truly amazing. Thank you for playing that, John. Introducing me to Christine Melanson. I think she is absolutely a gem. Thank you for listening, guys, to CHSR 97.9 FM Instant Breakfast on this Thursday morning with my co-host John Heinstein. And I see he has queued up next some Jessica Rhaye, and I do love Jessica Rhaye.
Yeah, she's been in the industry for like 15 years, really well known. Roots, folk, a little bit of country. She's from Hampton. We're going to play something off of one of her older albums, Short Stories, from 2006, because I think it's a bit of a departure musically from what we normally hear from her, and a really interesting one. But
because I have not heard this.
Yeah, it's a really interesting tune. Crazy Jayne is what it's called. First, a little bit about her. So she's got 5 albums. Her last album is Song and Me, which she put out in 2016, and she's played all over the place. Vancouver Winter Olympics. She showcased down in Memphis in 2010. She's toured the UK with Matt Anderson and Dave Gunning. Her songs have been featured on the country music reality TV show Unstable, and also the CBC TV show Heartland.
Wow.
Yeah. She's won Canadian Folk Music Award, multiple East Coast Awards, Music New Brunswick Awards, co-written tunes with Ron Sexsmith. Yeah, she's got a very long and illustrious music career.
And she looks so young.
Yes, she's timeless.
She is timeless. Because I'm pretty sure I did see her recently at the Grimross Brewing Company. And she looks like she's like, I don't know, 21.
Yeah, I saw her open for Martha Wainwright at the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival, I think last year. Yeah, it was great. Her and Brenton Mason, who she often collaborates with also. I think Brent co-wrote 2 or 3 tunes off her latest album.
He did. So. That is such a great album. I play that quite frequently here.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Crazy Jayne, off of her 2006 album Short Stories, I think it's a little more experimental than the folk music that she's known for. And Crazy Jayne is, on her Bandcamp site, is a tragic story about a young girl who can't live with herself after being sexually assaulted. And Jessica says that she was inspired to write something dark after reading the book Drowning Ruth by Christina Schwartz. The melody, the first verse and the chorus came to her the night she finished reading the book. And it's got a really dark electronic production. It's got a lot of synth in it, some vocoder, turntables, and even you can hear a music box near the end of it. I think this is at least partially a comment on how the word crazy is often ascribed to women when they're experiencing something traumatic, and that's a normal reaction, and people call them crazy. So I think the word crazy in this song is at least partly in double quotes.
That makes so much sense. Crazy Jayne.
Okay.
Are we ready to hear it from Jessica Rhaye?
Yeah.
Hide away, crazy Jayne. Have you heard of the girl they call Jayne? Lost her virginity at the age of 18. Raped by a man they said she knew well. How could he do water down on misery lane. One night the ocean invited her in. How could you do that, Jayne? Hide away, hide away, hide away, hide away, Grace Jayne. Nobody speaks your name. Mark, drove yourself and said, Grace Jayne, Grace Jayne.
Very interesting mix of acoustic and electronic there. Love that.
Yeah.
That was Crazy Jayne from Jessica Rhaye. And I know we're pushed for time here, and I do want to really get this track out because this is one of my favorite friends around Fredericton.
Yes, Indigo Poirier, who goes under the name Wangled Ted, Tangled Web.
That's just, I just love that.
And she is from Kingsclear First Nation, so Wolastoqiyik.
She's brilliant.
She is really brilliant.
Every
yeah.
time I have a question about anything I ask, I ask her every time.
She identifies as transgender or gender neutral. She's very active in the transgender community. And yeah, she does music that explores the themes of emotion, isolation, and connection, nature, and the often unclear line between the natural and the artificial. So this particular album that we're going to play today is the Water EP, and it's part of a 4-track recording that explores a variety of textures familiar to fans of Poirier's work. This is a quote from Grid City magazine, with glitch beats, frantic start-stop rhythms providing momentum over a dynamic soundscape. So it's part of a series of EPs based on the classical elements of water, fire, earth, and air. We don't have fire, earth, and air out yet. We have that to look forward to.
Absolutely. But this EP is wonderful. And we're going to hear
Yeah.
the first track, Norwood
Yeah.
Falls. That's actually my favorite.
It's electronic music. She says that it's breakcore, so it would be the only breakcore artist in Fredericton. Another word for breakcore is hardcore jungle, and that's a style of electronic dance music that's mostly characterized by the use of really heavy kick drums, breaks, and a wide palette of sampling sources played at really high tempo. So listen as we're playing this song to that fast, aggressive drum work and the sudden stops and starts, and that's kind of characteristic of her musical repertoire.
It may get cut off, but we're going to go with it anyway, and I hope you enjoy it. And thank you so much for listening, guys, today to CHSR 97.9 FM, Instant Breakfast with John Heinstein.